Hello and welcome to a special Halloween episode of The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast where we go movie series like a fish to discover which film did not abide by the rules. Joining me on this spooky day are...
I'm Luke Morgan, and I'm sorry, I'm the one who's been so selfish and self-absorbed with all this post-traumatic stress.
And I'm Griner, and I'm feeling a little woozy here.
Alright, so of course, to mark this time of year, we've got to do a horror trilogy, and so we're doing Scream, one of the greatest horror movies, maybe not franchises, one of the most influential and significant properties I think ever made in the genre. Wes Craven's return to form and reignition of a staple genre. Before we get into it, I just want to ask you guys, what's your favorite scary movie?
Oh boy. I'm not much into the classics. I'm really not. And even to be honest, this is the first time I'd seen most of the Scream movies. But
Crazy.
have you guys seen I'm a big fan of Get Out. I think Get Out is a fantastic thriller. Is it a scary movie? I don't know.
Social thriller.
Have you
According to Jordan Peele.
seen Hush?
It's a good film.
I really like that movie. I really love that. I think it's a really good slasher. It's very interesting, very unique, I think.
Anything Mike Flanagan does, I'm there for, hey. Luke, what about you?
So I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to horror films. I avoided them most of my life. My wife does like them, so over the years I've started having to watch these films. I brought up on another podcast that we did on our only other horror trilogy that we've done. I really, really enjoyed the Fear Street movies. I found them like a really good blend of this like pop culture Stranger Things thing with that horror gore side to it as well. To the point that I was like, oh, I could watch them again. I found them fun to watch. And definitely Scream 1 fills that void as well for me. But yeah, there's horror movies that have stuck with me. I wouldn't say they're my favorite because they've given me nightmares for like 2 years. Like Hereditary, I cannot get over that movie.
Great example.
I have nightmares every 2 or 3 nights about that movie. So that's definitely stuck with me more than any others. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. But yeah.
Yeah, it's not a rewatchable film, Hereditary, is it? You see it once and you try to bury that deep in your subconscious.
Yep.
I think for me, my favorite's probably It Follows. Do you guys ever see that?
Oh, yes. That's another one I bury deep in my subconscious.
Yeah.
The tall dude in the hallway for some reason. I don't know why.
Petrifying. No, it's great scene. Granted, did you say you haven't seen it? Or?
No, I haven't. I've heard it's good. I should watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones came out, got a lot of buzz as like the same. It came out I think in the same year as the Babadook, and there was these two sort of small horror films that came out that just kind of reminded everyone that the genre was fantastic. And I think even though it didn't reignite anything, in a way, it was kind of responsible for this sort of spate of great things like Get Out and Hereditary and kind of all these horror films that are a cut above standard. And like It Follows just a really clever commentary on the genre in a similar way. It's obviously all about how sex means death in horror, which is a very prevalent theme in these films. And just, really like a really scary, really dread-inducing film, but also just really, I don't know, something about the film I could watch over and over again. It's very hypnotic. But
and Randy's in that too, like explaining the plot of the movie, and It Follows as well. It just pops up and he's like, "Hey, I'm Randy from Scream." So with this movie,
did you know that in horror films there are rules?
It Follows was terrifying, and the Babadook as well. I watched the Babadook. I did watch that, and traumatized my wife a lot. She was very scared of that, a lot more than me personally. But yeah,
was she a mother at that point?
New mother. And at the time had anxiety about me going on. I was driving for work, and so she always had this fear that like I would get into an accident, and then the Babadook would haunt her. And like I kept playing on it. I kept like at night just be like Babadook, dook, dook, and she'd freak out, and it'd be great.
You designed a book and left it on a doorstep one day. This will psych her out.
Yep.
You're a good man. All right, What do we think of Scream? Grana, you've never seen these.
Yeah,
Give me your impressions.
somehow I've seen Scream 4 and I saw it in the cinema, but I never saw all of Scream. I don't know. I think it came out not long after I finished high school. I was a young man with a lot of money and a lot of time. And, you go to the movies with your friends every weekend, you just see whatever's on. I definitely seen bits and pieces of Scream 1. Scream 1 is one of those movies that you can't avoid because it's been parodied by everything. I have seen the
Yeah.
Scary Movie movies, so
Great
you know,
films.
I've seen the parodies of this to death. But I really enjoyed this. I was kind of fascinated by the tone that these movies strike. Like they're so self-aware of what they are, and they're this parody in a lot of ways. But it's not done for comedy. Like it does take itself seriously. I don't think they're
Mm.
very scary movies, but I don't think slashers generally are particularly scary anyway, in my opinion. But they can be very tense, and I think this movie has just such an interesting tone about it. Like, there's not many movies out there that do satire like this, but don't play it just for comedy.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. These films are kind of a perfect sort of combination of all those things, and I think it's a reason why they've become like they reinvented the genre and why they've become so referenced. Like you say, they just no one thought you could do it this way, and then they did it, and it's people are still sort of trying to achieve that, but yeah, it's pretty hard to do. Luke, what did you think?
So I have a unique history with this franchise and with Ghostface. So um when the first movie came out, obviously it was very popular amongst teenagers. I feel like this was one of the first horror films that was like the cool thing for teenagers to go watch. I had two teenage brothers at the time. I was a very young kid, and therefore Ghostface was the source of many nightmares and scary nights. As a kid, my brothers would often run in the room with a glow in the dark Ghostface mask and scare me with a bloody knife when I was 6 or 7. And I've only told my counselor up to this point in my life, but like it's
We can help.
I found Ghostface super scary for a long time and had avoided these movies for many years. Last year, my wife and I sat down and actually watched it again, like her again and me for the first time, and we watched the first two. And yeah, I kind of really like Scream One. It's great, and I did not know how meta, like Grana said, that these movies would be, and how self-aware
Mm.
and almost a parrot. Especially, like, it always confused me. I thought scary movies existed because they were a parody of Scream, but it's weird where Scream's almost a parody of itself. So it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of a weird play on that. Like it's doubling up on it in a weird way. But I haven't watched the scary movies, but I do want to now after watching all of these movies. So
They're actually not terrible. Like
No,
they
yeah.
they spawned a whole bunch of movies. Like, do you remember Epic Movie?
yeah,
And they're all
yeah.
really bad. But I think at
Yeah.
least Scary Movie 1 has some value, I think.
I think the first three are all really
Mm.
funny. I think I mean, so my impression of these films, my first interaction was seeing Scary Movie back as a kid when I used to go to my grandparents' place and they didn't care what we rented. So it's like MA15 plus comedy, and it must have been in 2000 when the first Scary Movie came out. So I knew all about the imagery and everything, and I kind of knew about this plot from that, and I love those films. But similar to you, Luke, I have my older brother, as I've mentioned on this podcast, and as Griner would know, my whole family's a big horror family. My brother loved these films. And so one of my earliest memories must have been when this film sort of just came out, so 96, 97. He was dressing up as Ghostface for like a Halloween party.
Yep.
And me being a little kid, little brother was kind of wanting to see what he was doing. He like turns around and like just freaks me out and runs after me. And that's like one of my earliest memories that I have still. So it's actually
Same.
left an impression.
Yep.
Um,
Same.
yeah. But I think Scream One is a fantastic film. Like I love it. I think it's so good. It's so clever. It's so valuable. I love seeing Wes Craven get it because Wes Craven has got it many times, but he's also had a lot of flops in his career, so it's really exciting. And yeah, it's like I think Scream One and even the whole franchise kind of made horror. It brought horror into the postmodern era where there was an awareness of, hey, this is a film you're watching. The film's got a purpose, right? It's designed to scare you. So there's tropes it's playing on. It builds tension. It creates this thing so that it knows what it is. It's not trying to pretend to be something else. It knows it's going to scare you, and so it's played to that strength. And to see Scream kind of say, "Hey, we can do this. You don't have to be cheesy or bad, or you can actually just do this well." And kind of like, but you don't have to. I don't know how to describe, but I think it's just for the generation that's seen so much horror and it goes, okay, now we're actually watching horror movies rather than films trying to get at horror. And like I
Yeah.
say, Scream's not actually that scary, but it's fun, and a lot of horror movies I think are fun more than anything else.
And I think it's got the whole relatability thing of like these people have seen scary movies. These people have seen the scary movies we have, so they have instincts to do stuff that we yell at the screen when we're watching
Yeah.
horror movies. Which I mean, I even did it watching these films. So I'm like, don't go back in there, just walk outside.
Yep.
But yeah, like it's there's so they're so 90s. There's a lot of nostalgia in these movies.
Yeah.
Some of them are so 2000s. There's a lot of Creed in some of them, and it's like
Yeah, Creed's
it's a
like the
great.
anthem in number 2.
I know, and it's a great look into those years. But yeah, they're classics, and I feel like watching Scream 1, even like last year for the first time, it felt unique in a weird way. Like it was kind of refreshing to watch it. In that, especially like the twist at the end, and we'll get to it later. Like I just, yeah, I don't know. I find it interesting how the villains are played out in that, and I think it's different than your traditional horror films, and it makes it a comedy, but also like has some scary or gory stuff more like. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, we'll talk about when we get to the first one, but the opening scene is like pure horror, and it's phenomenal. Some of the best like filmmaking ever put to celluloid, but we will talk about that, I'm sure, at the end, unless somebody wants to say it's not the best film. But hey, we'll come to that. Do you guys want some stats?
Let's do it.
yes, stats.
We get the stats dance on video finally.
Yes, it's
What a-
finally there.
What a thrill! All right, so Scream, made in 1996 to a budget of $15 million, made 173 million. Metascore of 65. Scream 2 made 1 year later in 1997, budget of 24 million, made $173 million as well. Metascore of 63. Scream 3 in 2000, budget of 40 million, only made 161 million. Its Metascore is 56. And Scream 4 comes later in 2011, budget of 40 million, only made 97 million. Metascore of 52. And then, of course, Scream 5 comes next year, which is I'm very excited for. And I'm super shocked that they're still making Scream films. But
Do you feel
I love it.
Do you feel like the fact that this Scream 1 has spawned so many sequels, when it came out, it was kind of fighting against the fact that there's so many sequels, and that like scare horror movies had become tired a little bit, and we get this refreshing new movie, but now they've just done sequel after sequel after sequel.
Yes and no. Luke, what do you think?
It feels funny and ironic watching the third one now for the first time, which like I've watched this week for the first time ever, and like all the talk about it being the finale, like anything goes. This is the end. This arc is coming to an end. Knowing that you have a fourth one to watch after this, and knowing that the trailer for the fifth one's just coming out, and I know they did take a big break, and it was the end for a long time, but like they just couldn't help themselves. Like they just got to go back to the well again, and it's I don't know. I'm very excited for the new one though, but yeah, it's become.
And it is funny. It's funny in number 4 where it's like they're up to stab 7, and so it's clearly just like it's become the Saw franchise, right? It's just, and it's like the third one has time travel, and that's the worst. So I think they're fully aware that they've kind of become that beast, and they're like, we don't want to be, but at the same time, Kevin Williamson, the guy who wrote 1, 2, and 4, and I think the new one as well, but I could be wrong. He envisioned it as a trilogy originally, so I think he was conscious of making it as that, but I don't know how much of it was he just had an idea, and after the success of the first one, it came through from there. But yeah, I mean, I think the third one suffers a bit from being a third film, even though it's trying to be clever, but we can talk to that too. Just quickly, so a lot of the creative team as well behind this are the same. All 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all directed by Wes Craven. The fifth one won't be because Craven unfortunately died in 2015, which is really sad.
No, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so this is Scream 4 was his last film, actually. 1, 2, and 4 are all written by Kevin Williamson. Number 3 was written by a guy named Aaron Kruger. And then they've all got the same sort of recurring cast. So all the characters who survive come back in these films. There's no replacements. There's no just kind of random. So, Dewey's not here and no one's going to talk about it. So, no, they're all here. studio has got Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and even Roger Jackson was the voice of all of them.
Like it's fascinating that they're all like, it feels weird that like Courtney Cox will be in number 5, and like it seems like below her in a weird way. Like obviously she's not doing much, but she has become
I don't know if it's
no, but I know
she's got that Friends money though. She doesn't need to do anything ever
got
again.
Friends money. No. It's like Jerry Seinfeld's not going to show up in any like small time movie. Like she doesn't need to work again. So
Scream the first cinematic universe. Is that what's happened?
Yeah.
Everybody
I think
keeps
though, like
back.
Interesting what you say. Like Scream, I don't think is a small film. Like Scream is, like we said, it's everyone knows it. Everything is inspired by it. Everything has replicated it. Like Scream is a big. It's one of the last big franchises, I think. Sort of, franchises have all died and were kind of replaced by Marvel and a handful of hanger-ons. Scream is kind of like, yep.
Is it? But is it low? Because the fourth one bombed, and it's like
it didn't. Was not nearly as successful. Yeah.
But how will 5 go? I'm interested to see how 5 goes, especially like compared to like Halloween Kills, that's coming out. Like how, because it's doing really well at the box office at the moment. I'm interested to see how Scream 5 goes. Like, my instinct says it'll be good, but I don't know.
I do think we're at a point in cinema history where horror is now like again really profitable. So it's, as a genre, it always does these weird slopes. And so when the first one came out in '96, horror was in this weird spot where most horror films being made were sequels. So you had, Friday the 13th Part 9. Yeah. And then you had a lot of really bad direct-to-video horrors and stuff. And there was no real in-between. You had a handful of others, but most of them were sequels or crap. And then this came out, rebooted horror, essentially. A lot of good ones. You had like, I Know What You Did Last Summer come out. You had a lot of the teen horror films, sort of that phenomenon for a while. And then around about the 2010s, horror got a bit more tired again. And I think that's part of the reason why Scream 4 didn't do too well, because it just wasn't quite the draw.
Yeah.
But now, over the past few years, we've really sort of seen that horror actually is one of the only like non-superhero or big blockbuster films that brings people to the cinema. People still pay money, like for Halloween Kills, like a sequel to a film made in the 80s, right? Like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of obscure, but people still going to see it. So I reckon Scream 5 will actually do really well.
Horror is often considered like one of those genres that is almost always profitable. Like even the smaller movies, they can be made for a small budget and they end up being profitable. It's just an interesting thing that seems to happen.
It is. And I think with like Get Out and Ari Aster's stuff, everyone's like, wow, look at these phenomenal films. Horrors can be a really great genre. So it's getting more respect. But I will see. It might end up being the worst film of all time. Who knows? Does it deserve to be a quadrilogy or soon to be quintology? Quintilogy, whatever the hell 5 is.
Quintuplets.
Could there be quintuplets of Scream?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think this is the first time we've said no on this podcast. But like it I don't know. It becomes what it hates. Like watching one again, like I said earlier, it still feels unique, and I'm like, oh, that's such a cool twist at the end, and it's like got this thing, and then it just 2, oh, it's done it again, and then 3 does it again, and it's just, I don't know. I don't think it does. I think Scream right now, if you had come out like this week and there was a trailer for the sequel to Scream and it had all the cast back, that would be crazy, and I think that would bring big box office numbers instead of all the Scream sequels and everything like that. It's sort of doesn't have the name or power that I think it did once before. But
I agree. Like, it's just I like 1. I think 2 is a decent sequel. We're getting a bit into the judging here, but I just think it really loses it after that. It loses a lot of the things that make 1 and 2 charming.
I've got a hot take, man, about this series. So
yeah, I mean, okay, we will. Well, it's something I want to mention before we do start to rank it. I think it does work. I think this franchise can sort of continue because each of them are able to sort of comment on where the horror genre is at the moment. So 4 is obviously commenting on the nature of remakes at a time where, like I said, horrors are still kind of getting a bit stale. And I don't know what number 5 is going to do, but like 2's commenting on the sequel problem. 3's commenting on the meta thing. And I think just in the 90s, everything was being made into a film. There was that boom of like just try to make anything you can do, anything that's popular, beat that horse to death. So even though 3 is probably not the greatest film, I think it's still clever in what it's trying to say on the general industry, especially like its commentary on Hollywood as a place where, you know, like evil people are working. And we'll mention something more on that in a second. But I think it is the kind of thing every 10 years you can check in with Scream and be like, what's going on in the horror genre? Oh, this is it. Okay. We're inundated with, you know, something. And they just sort of make a film that metally recognizes that.
Yeah. And that would be interesting, but they didn't do that. I feel like they did 4 Scream movies. They did 3 Scream movies in, I feel like, 5 or 6 years. Like, it's not like they're checking in again, like, hey, it's horror's taking a turn. Let's do a film commenting on this. Like, I feel like they're running it horror into the ground. Like, I feel like they're like constantly going back to it for money. It's not like this.
But I think like a sequel comes out straight away, right? Sequels don't usually take 10 years to come out. So the sequel straight after the first one makes sense. The third one was 3 years after, which, again, most things while it's a hot property. And I feel like the remake took 11 years. And so if the fifth one is kind of like a reboot remake again, I think that fits.
Yeah, I guess so. But is it a reboot? We'll have to see.
Yeah,
we'll have to see.
I don't think 3 has much to say at all, in my opinion. Honestly, I think, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure that 4 does either. But anyway.
Okay.
So, just before, like, we'll get into it, but because I was blown away when. Now I know you guys like to go off Metacritic. I'm the Rotten Tomatoes guy. I'll just quickly mention the Rotten Tomatoes score.
I did write them down here because I knew you would.
So Scream 1, 79%. Scream 2, 81%. Scream 3, 40%. And Scream 4, 60%.
So
Mind
strange
blown.
Scream 2 is... How is Scream 2 higher than Scream 1?
Exactly. I'm blown away by that.
That's the only part of that list that's wrong, though, in my opinion.
Oh, but it's... Oh, okay.
I'm excited to hear what Luke says. I think we... All right, before we get into it, I just want to mention real quick, it's worth noting, these films produced by Miramax. Miramax, obviously, the Weinstein Company's thing they ran. Rose McGowan's in the first one, and Rose McGowan was one of the first people to accuse Harvey Weinstein of his now his laundry list of crimes.
Yep.
So I don't think it's really worth spending a lot of time on that. You can, everyone sort of already knows it, but it is just worth noting that, you know, these huge films that did a lot for the genre were unfortunately made by a company with a monster at the head of them. But
scarier than all the movies.
And it's why 3, I think, has a lot more interesting value now, where they're like, there's all these monsters working in Hollywood. I'm like, oh, that's fitting. At the time, maybe not, but right now, it's like, yeah, that's tricky.
All right, Conan, ask the question.
First things first. Can I just talk real quick? These films have stacked casts, right?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Even like, I don't know, we'll get into it, I guess, but killing off Drew Barrymore in the first 5 minutes of the first movie is like, I mean, it's a classic now, but it's
such a baller move.
It's such a baller move. It works really well. And then like number 2, just I feel like ups the cast of like people you know from the 90s. Like you get Sarah Michelle Gellar, you just get so many people. They just cram them all into this movie and kill off a lot of them too.
Yeah. It's crazy. I wrote it down like really quick here. So the second one, you got Jada Pinkett pre her Will Smith days, Heather Graham, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Timothy Olyphant, Joshua Jackson, Jerry O'Connell, Portia de Rossi, Luke Wilson. Like, like a veritable who's who, right?
And some of those people are only in there to like parody characters from the first one. Like Luke Wilson as Billy Loomis is so good, but he's like only in there for the tiniest little bit.
It's ideal. Heather Graham's Drew Barrymore, so she has one scene, and it's like that's. Oh, I love it. It's crazy. They're kind of like these weird snapshots of like who's big and who's up and coming of Hollywood at the time, and everyone who's in the scene is like, we're in Scream.
Yep. No, it's kind of fascinating to watch and just be like, oh my god, she's in it too. Oh, he's in it now. Like it's impressive, and it's
it blows my mind. All right, Dennis Franz. Who does he play? I think he replaces Henry Winkler.
Yeah,
man, I would love, Henry Winkler. He's a character. I don't know. I'd like to see Dennis Franz's. as him, especially him just being like, "What you deserve is to have your insides ripped out." And I'm like, man, I've had principals say that to me, like, and I've had principals do that to me, and yeah, it's quite terrifying.
Threaten you with blades? That's not good.
No.
Give him the role of Cotton. Give him a role in almost all the movies. I want to see him over and over again. This man that seduced Sydney's mum.
Oh, there's something so off-putting about that. Especially in the first one, you see just that one shot of Liev Schreiber. So you saw one shot of Dennis Franz getting taken away. Like, oh, what?
It'd be believable.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, and then him just being obsessed with like his 15 minutes of fame for the next movie. Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great.
We're very harsh on Dennis Franz. He's a treasure, though.
Comes from a place of love.
I didn't realize, but The Simpsons did it first. If you go back and watch seasons 4 and 5 of Simpsons, Dennis Franz is in every dodgy role.
Yeah.
For some reason, The Simpsons worked out what we were doing ahead of time. Apparently,
it's like we watched The Simpsons a lot and we're inspired by
maybe that's what it was.
No, Simpsons just predicted the future. They predicted this podcast.
That's what I think
they predicted that we would have this segment.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. NYPD Blue was actually a really big show, and Dennis Franz obviously was Sipowicz on there. So it's like, I think I just don't realize how many people knew him. But anyway, all right, Wooden Spoon, worst film. Luke, entertain us with a hot take.
Scream.
All right. So I have a bit of a hot take with this, which I did not think was going to be a hot take until I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes scores and found out that everyone is as wrong as I thought they were. I think easily Scream 2 is the worst of all 4 of these movies.
Really?
Justify that statement somehow.
Okay. Number 1, main reason, Jerry O'Connell singing.
Bad.
That's my number 1 reason for why it's a good movie. Do we want to just relive that moment now?
Yeah, can we listen to that?
Do we have to?
Derek, don't.
I think I love you.
Don't do this.
I think I love you. Isn't that what life is made of? No, it worries me to say.
Timothy Olyphant's too good for this movie.
He is. He really is.
What is Jerry O'Connell's wearing? Like, who wears those pants? Oh, that's awful.
See, if the cops that are in here, they would shoot him on sight if he was doing this.
The thing is,
for crimes against music.
I got that clip. It goes on for another 2 minutes.
I know, exactly. So there we go. We can move to the next category because I've proven my point. No, that scene's very cringe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bad.
The thing about 2, now, obviously, I think 3 is quite bad as well. I find 2 very unmemorable. Like, I
like the college aesthetic.
I watched it last year and coming to watch again, I was just like, oh, that's right, that happened. That's right. I don't remember anything from it. And then after watching all 4 and thinking back on the 4 of them, I was like, oh, 2, which one? Oh, okay, yeah, that was that. I find it not that memorable. I don't like the whole storyline with Billy Loomis's mum. I don't like her being involved. Timothy Olyphant is amazing in everything he does, and I love that man. And I like that he's in the movie, and he almost sways me just being in that movie. But great. I don't know. I feel
kind
like
of weird that
I feel like Randy's death is very unearned, and it's just like I feel like that's a major thing. I feel like I thought watching it that he would be there with the main cast through a couple of the movies, like through at least the trilogy.
But that's the great thing about it, right? You think that because he's in the first one, he survives, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a virgin. Like, this is a good thing." And it turns out, and then because I was the same, I was like, "Randy's going to be in the whole thing."
Yeah.
And then it's like they pull the rug out from under you.
I get that, but I think the way he was killed, it was just like, okay, did he actually die? Oh, okay, he did die. It didn't feel as
stabbed several times.
Yeah, but like I don't know, you see the blood dripping out of the van. Like I still had this. So I was like, when I first watched, I was like, is he the killer? Like, is he just? I don't know. Is it this like orchestrated thing? I just feel like his death doesn't have this thing where you're like, I remember his death scene. Like he gets pulled into a van and stabbed, and it's like it's not earned, it's not memorable, and I know that's not a reason to just make this the worst of the whole series, but I don't know. I find the whole thing like I do like Timothy Oliphant, but even
Got a
even
hard on
now
for Elephant.
but even now, like I'm struggling to remember much about the movie. Like I find it like it just has the sequel problem of like we're just trying to do this again.
But
What's okay? The opening's the cinema. First of all, there's no cinema that's that chaotic, man.
That's it.
There's like people running around. It's not that chaotic. People don't act like that at cinemas. It's so unrealistic.
It's a special screening, and you've clearly never been to the Saw 2 and Saw 3 openings.
Have you ever been to like a Rocky Horror Picture Show where everybody gets dressed up and
Yeah,
there's some
pretty
movies where
nuts.
they take like tomatoes and throw them at the screen. I can't remember what it is, but like these movies
In
exist.
the room,
Yeah, that's
the
right.
room they give you spoons, and like they give you bags at the door, and like you throw spoons.
Yeah.
And it's the thing. So by the end of it, you're covered in plastic spoons for no apparent reason.
Yeah,
That opening is so good though. Like as she gets onto the stage and she's like, "Lets out this howl," and everything kind of settles, and you realize what's happened. Haunting.
Omar Epps getting stabbed through the ear.
Oh,
it is
so
brutal.
good. So
It is brutal. Look, three's really bad as well. Like as far as I'm concerned, 3 can easily win this as well. But I found myself, I don't know, more intrigued and a bit more. Who is the killer? In number 3, I really was like, who done it? Like I could have sworn it was the cop. Like the whole time I was like, no, it's the cop. You
That's
know,
a classic red herring, man.
They play on that. They play on it. Like
They
I
do
love
that in
these movies
every
for
movie,
their.
though.
They do, but in number 2, I was like, it's going to be Timothy Oliphant, and it's
crap. You
no.
did not-
I'm being serious.
You didn't
I
think
thought it was
Cotton
him.
for a second.
No, and I knew it was the weird reporter. Like me
No,
personally, I didn't know it was
called
Billy
that.
Loomis's mother. I didn't know that, but the reporter, I was like, it's going to be her. Like it's weird. They just introduced this character like, oh, she's the new Gail Weathers, blah blah blah. But I don't know. I just found it too predictable. It's the only ending where I wasn't like, oh my god, it's that person. So it didn't have that shock to me. Like I was like, yeah, okay, I saw that coming.
I don't think I'll ever believe you. I don't think you called it at all.
No, I can't agree with that either. I think like 2 carries on the movie, like that these characters love movies and these characters know all the movies. Like I don't know, you've got the fun film class scene at the start where they're talking about sequels. It could almost be like the start of this podcast. Like they have a big
100%.
fight about Aliens being better than Alien, T2 being better than
So-
Terminator. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a
So
lot of
good.
fun there.
It's
I really
basically our
enjoy that.
podcast.
It is.
Yeah. Again, they stole our ideas in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that they play up on the sequel problems, and they actually see that through as like tropes within the movie, and I think that's fun. And I think 3 doesn't do any of that. I thought 3 was a real letdown. How do you guys feel about there being only one killer? Does that spoil it a little bit for you? You don't care about that? I don't know. I feel like Scream has to have 2 killers. I feel like there should be always 2 killers.
But I'm just going to quote one of the rules here.
All the rules are out the
What does
window.
it say? Yeah, I didn't write the quote down, but exactly. Nothing is sacred. Anything can happen, man.
Anything goes.
But then that also involves rewriting the whole history, which I realize is part of the rules. But I just think making him her half brother is such a shitty way to introduce a character and then make them important.
It's totally the point, though, right?
I know
It's
it is
like
the point.
it's
I know.
reinventing the past, and it's that classic thing of like
just
yeah,
pointing out that something is
It's
bad
so
and
soapy.
then also doing it doesn't make it good.
That's true. I mean, you're right. You can't point out a problem then continue to do that problem. I don't know. I think 3 is fun.
I kind of like the whole Hollywood angle of it. It's like, obviously, like, yeah, I don't know. There's something about 3 that I think is more memorable. I like the whole Hollywood aspect of it. Don't like the ghost mum. That's a bit creepy, but yeah.
I think 3, like, so for me, one of the best scenes in 2 is like when Dewey and Courtney Cox, I can't remember what her character, Gail, running
Gail.
around in like the soundproof booth area. That's
Yeah.
such a good scene. And then they try and do a similar thing in 3 with the one-way mirror. And I just don't think it's anywhere near as good. Like, I think the kills in 2 are so much better than 3. I could have the argument 3 and 4 being the worst, but I don't think 2's in there at all.
No, I won't hear 4 being the worst. I think 4's great.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, continue.
I'll just say it, man. I find it really weird. I find like Cotton Weary. He really, really wants this 15 minutes of fame.
He does.
Like he's
Sure
like he's literally pointing her down with a gun, and he is contemplating like, yeah, okay, maybe we'll let her die, and then I can be a bit famous on TV. Okay, you'll do an interview on 60 Minutes. Boom. Okay, cool, solved. Like it feels like I don't know. Cotton Weary is not a great character in that.
It's kind of like it's like pure satire though, because it's commenting on that fact where like America's obsession with true crime and with violence, and where people love and like you see it time and time. Like I thought of Nightcrawler watching it, how spoilers for Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal ends up killing people or orchestrating these things because he wants to see the violence and because he's so obsessed. And it's kind of saying Cotton Weary is so obsessed with being famous for being a victim. It's like he'll become a killer to be a victim. And it is kind of ridiculous, but I think that's just the point. It's satirizing that element. I mean, to your point, Luke, like number 2, I think is probably the least memorable. But I do think it's a better film than number 3. I think 3 is way too cutesy in my mind. And it's not scary. It's very funny. Like there's not really any, I don't remember any moment in 3 where I'm like, there's actually any genuine tension or scare. It's really like, because it's a film of a film. So it's really like, I'm just watching this. I know exactly that. I don't know. It felt to me like I'm too aware of what's going on and I'm just waiting for it to happen rather than any sort of real tension or interest.
And how many times do people survive a gunshot from like a bulletproof vest or like, I just feel like there's a whole lot of like, I don't know. And I know they throw that out in the rules too. Oh, the killer's not going to be stopped by a simple bullet. It's just, I don't know.
But man, okay, I will say in 3, like she knows he's got a bulletproof vest on, and then she still like stabs him, and it's just like, oh, I'm sure he's dead. But I will say 2 and Timothy Oliphant has possibly, I don't know why I find it the funniest, has the funniest come back to life thing where he just gets up like, like screaming before getting shot to death again. Like it's so dramatic and it just cracks me up every time. But yeah.
I mean, his whole motivation's kind of stupid though.
It is. Like, I want to get caught so then we can blame it on the movies and do this lawsuit. Doesn't make any sense at all. No,
it's just weird. And I like the mother being involved because it's really playing on like the Friday the 13th. Like the first one, Jason Voorhees' mother's the killer. And so I really like this whole, and like, obviously Psycho vibes as well of the mother doing it for the child. Like it's just playing on that trope and I find that really fun.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
No. Unless you want to hear Jerry singing again.
No, I'm good.
Please, God, no.
So, Griner, why is 2 better than 3?
Oh, I mean, I've told you my reasons, but I think 3 is a weaker movie. I just enjoyed 2 a lot more. Like, I think 2 like plays on these characters knowing the movie tropes, knowing about like what happens in sequels, knowing about what happens in horror movies, and I don't think they do that very well in 3. Like, I think it's off to the side.
They do bring Randy back on a video.
They do.
Which is great. Which is
to explain the trilogy.
Perfect.
Yeah, and explain that he wasn't a virgin.
I love that scene. It's like 15 minutes. It's my room too.
Yeah.
Why do we think Rotten Tomatoes has it at 82% over the first one? What could honestly...
don't know why. It's definitely not better than the first one,
Rotten
and that's
Tomatoes
why.
Is a flawed system for reviewing things.
My man.
Yeah, obviously, I keep learning this harsh lesson, but I can't believe
teaching you this lesson.
Listen, I can't believe it's so much. It's higher than the first one. Like it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's really weird.
And I know 3's bad as well, but I don't think 3 is 40% to Scream 2's 82%. Like I don't think that's as dramatic.
I agree. I don't think any of these films are bad. I like them all. I think 40% is a bit too harsh. But we're gonna say 3 is the worst?
That's my opinion.
Like,
I agree.
I can dig it. I get it. I get why it's the worst. So.
All right. We're just gonna have to live with Jerry O'Connell for a while.
Yep.
Who is to blame then?
Grana.
Yeah, Grana. What's your?
No, I think Grana's to blame.
Yeah, it's my fault. No, I like.
I'm not saying number 2.
I really felt like only having one killer was weak. Like I really felt like that. Like I feel like Scream should have 2 killers. I don't know what it is. I just think it's more interesting. I think the killer in 3, his motivation is just really dumb. Like introducing him as the half brother out of nowhere, and I know they're playing on the trilogy tropes, but I still think it's dumb. I still think it's really dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I have a great solution for this one. But.
It gives you all the backs. Like I don't know. It's that forced backstory that they just chuck in to be like, this explains a bunch of things. And actually, what we said in the first one about Billy and Stu just killing her, it's more deeper than that because we need another explanation for this to happen. But I don't know, man. That rug kill would not happen. The way he pulls the rug and the guy like flips on the end of the rug and breaks his neck on the ground. Like
it's very convenient.
Ghostface is strong as hell to do that rug like a cartoon and a guy on the other end of the rug to flip over. But
Scott Foley's jacked.
Oh, absolutely. Can I just say, and this tripped me out, even in the first one, and I remember watching it for the first time last year and having this same comment when like the photo of Sydney's mother popped up, and when she pops up in number 3 again, man, all I see is Matthew Lillard. Is it just me? I feel like she looks exactly like it looks like Matthew Lillard to me, like so much just with like a wig on. That I was convinced it was, but I don't know.
Maybe that was the original plot for number 3 that Matthew Lillard was actually her brother.
Maybe it'll come out in Scream 5.
Maybe because the third film wasn't written by Kevin Williams; it was written by this other guy.
Who's done nothing.
So that's where he did some of the Transformers films, which are Hollywood classics. So he's obviously to blame for that. He doesn't know the thing, but maybe that was the original idea, just to really make it incestuous and weird. It's interesting as well. In an interview Matthew Lillard gave, he talked about how Wes Craven found these films really stressful because he felt with each one he had to make another unique sort of phenomenon rather than just making sequels. And judging by this discussion, he didn't achieve that with 2 and 3 at all. So sorry, Wes, but I think it's funny.
It didn't impress us.
No, it didn't impress these 3 Australian dudes in 2021.
No,
but I think that's an interesting. I kind of feel that, and I feel that plight because you make the first film that is so sort of unique and revolutionary in a way, and the sequel's expecting to up that and be like, okay, we want to see that, and you always see that, right? Sequels are always meant to be bigger, better improvements, or they're considered failures.
Yep.
And so it's kind of tricky. Like, I do respect that he tried to make 3 unique films. Like the first one's high school, the second one is a college film, the third one is a Hollywood film, and the fourth one's a remake. But sort of with that in mind, you can see why you would try so hard, and it kind of just, I don't know, it would be really tough to make each one just great. So,
yeah. Did you know they only had Neve Campbell for 15 days of filming or something in Scream 3? That's the other thing about it. Like she's very much almost a secondary character in that movie.
It's true. Like I noticed halfway through, I was like, she's not really in it much, or we haven't checked in with her for a while. Like she's just sitting at the police station. I didn't know that, so that explains that.
And so a lot of the exposition falls on Dewey and Gale. How do you guys feel about them in general?
Man, they dated in real life, so
yeah, I know.
There's some magic there.
I didn't know David Arquette acted as well, so
what?
That's a little reference to the fact that he's now a full-blown professional wrestler that does death matches.
What?
Yeah, that's how David Arquette in 2021 is known as the deathmatch professional wrestler. It was his dream growing up. So that's what he does as a career now. And he's coming out of that to do Scream 5. Hopefully, maybe his acting's better because he's been
acting all this
pro
time,
wrestling, which is known as the strong acting source. and The
It
Rock,
entirely
John
is.
Cena. But yeah, no, he's like full on extreme, like barbed wire ropes, like smashing tubes over each other's heads and like exploding rings. Like he gets the crap beat out of him, like, and wasn't respected for a long time in the wrestling world because people were like, there was this whole thing in the 90s where he was brought in by promotion when he was like a famous actor and he won their championship. So it was always like a joke that he was a champion at one time in WCW. And then he really loved the business. So in recent years, he trained and now he does it in front of like crowds of like 20 or 30 people, like in gyms. Like he just on the indies, man. He's like an indie wrestler and gets beat up bad, man.
That's probably why he's doing Scream 5, right? Because he's like, I can't keep just doing this. I need some money.
all those injuries he's pretending to have in Scream 2, he actually has now in Scream 4.
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder now, yeah.
He's like, your limp looks really good now. He's like, yeah, that's just
it's real
part
now.
of the job now. Yep.
I had no idea. I mean, yeah, I don't think David Arquette's great in these films. Like,
I think this character is who he can play because
he's saved by being that character, right? Like
he's like actually brain damaged in Scream 1 though. Like he's actually stupid.
Legit, yeah. So again, like with Scary Movie, how he's played by Officer Doofy.
Yeah.
And I can't separate that now. Whenever I see Dewey, I'm like, oh, it totally is. He's just such a... You're right, yeah, there's clearly an injury there and some of the dumb stuff he says. Oh.
It's kind of funny though in one like that his sister keeps like mocking him and he's like, Mum said when I'm wearing the badge you have to respect me.
You got to
Don't
respect
talk to me like that in front of everyone.
Yeah.
She scolds him in front of all the office, but yeah, like he's not a great actor.
No.
But he's believable in this because I feel like this is what he's maybe like in real life. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, he's saved by being able to... It's like, you know, you get Arnie playing the Terminator. It's like, well, of course he can do that.
Yeah.
You get David Arquette playing someone who can't really do anything. That's just so crazy. He's a wrestler. I had no idea. I'm more excited to see him in Scream 5 now.
Oh man, he'll have that Mickey Rourke energy.
Yeah,
did you watch the trailer? He's got the beard. He's like, he looks like he's washed up, man. He's like,
see, the trailer looks a lot darker than the others. Like, it actually looks like because he's kind of like sitting there. You're right, he looks grizzled and washed up. Like, it doesn't look like it's got any sort of humor. So I'm really curious to see what they do with it. If they go for like a full-on dark reboot or what.
But can I say, like, thank God, because I didn't want to see like 60-year-old David Arquette being like Goofy Dewey, like, like hopping around and like crashing on Courtney Cox, especially since they got divorced like 15 years ago. It'd be a bit awkward.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see what obviously they were divorced long before Scream 4 was done, and they were in some scenes together like with that. But I'm interested to see their chemistry in 5. So
yeah. Griner, were you a fan of their chemistry on screen?
I think they do kind of work in an awkward way, but yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of David Arquette. Courtney Cox is even not that exciting. She's fine, but she's not.
No. And this film catches her at a really interesting time, right? Like I think it was season 3 or 4 of Friends was had aired when this first came out, so she's kind of like already riding high on that. So she is really famous, but she's trying to sort of, you know, not be typecast as is it Monica? Is that who she plays?
Yeah.
So she's trying to avoid that, and so she intentionally takes this like unpleasant role who gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's not remarkable, but she is like, I like Gail Weathers, and like I like her performance in
one. I think like Gail Weathers is the classic reporter in like number 1. You know, I think that's like an iconic. I only watched it last year, but I feel like that's like an iconic character. You know, but
like out to get the story. We're like willing to do sort of anything for the story. It's like it kind of seems trite now, but I think it probably partially because of this.
Doesn't she say like we could catch a murderer or stop a murder? Do you know what that would do for like my book sale numbers or something like that? She says like it's great, but
she's so fickle. I do like their back and forth where every movie they're kind of like not really together again.
Yeah.
But then they are, and they sort of re-fall in love again. I like them.
Oh, they're Ross and Rachel.
And that's the greatest part in number 2, where they talk about who's going to play Dewey in the movie Stab, and he's like, they're going to get David Schwimmer for me. Brilliant. Some of the best. That's cinema right there. That's good writing. Man. Who deserved better? You can say overall here, or we just talk Scream 3. Courtney Cox's hair deserves better.
Oh, in
Dude,
3,
yes.
it's shocking. Yeah.
It's the
Dude.
worst thing I've ever seen.
Okay. My wife made sure that I mentioned her fringe in number 3.
So
like
did
the
mine.
butchered fringe.
It's so strange. It's
So
so
weird.
strange.
And 100% the who deserve better category. She was like, that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Like,
the
no one should
biggest
have that
massacre
done.
in this series was what her hairdresser did to her in Scream 3. Yeah, no, that fringe, it's really, really bad.
It's rough. It's real rough.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I had written down David Arquette arguably deserved worse because he's not a good actor, and I think he really did become like a bit of a big thing after this.
Yeah.
And I don't get why.
No.
See,
And
it's so
then-
funny because he's in Friends too. Like he shows up in Friends and plays basically the same character again, crushing on Monica. Like it's obviously like they were together in real life, but it's Dewey in Friends
Yeah.
again. But
I need
he's
more
like a
Dewey in my
stalker in
life.
that one. Who deserved better? Timothy Olyphant, man.
Yeah, true.
I think he's good in this, and he gets a lot right.
He does.
He is the killer, and this
He
is right at
does,
the
but I
beginning
feel
of his
like
career.
I feel like it's sort of just like he doesn't get much until he's the killer, and then he gets like his monologue and stuff like that. I didn't
That's
feel
true.
him he's present throughout the movie that much as Matthew Lillard and all that were constant, and Billy Loomis were these constant things throughout number 1. He was always in the background.
But he's kind of like the Randy character in a way. He's always sort of hanging out with the group, and he's always kind of trying to offer bits of advice and help here. And he's like, there's never a moment that's on him, but he's just kind of like a constant. He's like a constant in the friendship group, which I don't know. Like his career, this is still really early on, so he wasn't a big name. He wasn't a big draw at all. So it's fitting. It makes sort of sense to have this smaller role do what it does. But I mean, I always want more Timothy Olyphant. So.
But I mean, my answer would be Randy, because Randy, like I said, touched on earlier. But that's for Scream 2 because he was killed off in Scream 2. I think he deserved to get to the trilogy. Like I think he deserved. I would have much rather see him there, being like, this is like all bets are off. Like anything could happen in this one. Not even the virgins are safe, or something like that. Instead of just getting the video, which I like the video as well. But yeah. I think he deserved better.
Yeah, I kind of missed him in 3. I think he's a part of why I don't like 3 as much.
Yeah.
The song "I Think I Love You," I think it deserved better.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, no one could listen to that anymore.
I deserve better. But man, they should have had Randy come back in Scream 4 with like another video. He's like, and just in case something happens again down the line, it's not just a trilogy.
It's true. Like Randy is the MVP of these films, I think, and I do really miss that he's not in it. It would have been great if you're right. He just keeps on like finding videotapes or something.
Yeah,
it's like, wow, he was really prepared for this stuff.
And in case you do a reboot 20 years from now, these are the rules.
Oh, I think it's a bit too late for that. Unfortunately, he doesn't look.
It looks like he would have probably aged since then.
Yeah, I don't know if he got.
Yeah.
What do we think of Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard? I'm a Skeeter. I like Skeet. I think he's actually pretty cool.
He's pretty good.
And I think his career kind of didn't do much, unfortunately.
No, it didn't.
And yeah,
I think they're fantastic. Like, I don't know. I'm a Matthew Lillard fan, but I think he's hilarious.
What is it you like of his?
Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo.
It's like Shaggy.
Like, yeah, well, that 100% before I watched Scream last year, Shaggy is what Matthew Lillard was to me.
No, for sure.
Watching Scooby-Doo now will be a bit of a darker twist. But like, I don't know, I think him and Billy Loomis are great at the end of one. Like that final act, I think they're hilarious. Like
I think
there's so many
Matthew
lines.
Lillard is so like unintentionally so funny.
He is literally crazy in that last scene.
There's so many lines. It's just like, oh, like, yeah. I love the stuff like, oh man, my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. Like he's
just like drooling everywhere.
He's a mess. He's bleeding out.
It's so bad.
Oh, you hit me with the phone, you dick.
But wait, there's more. Yeah. Oh god, it's so. It's
He's
so
unhinged,
ridiculous.
and it's
He
great.
is,
But
he fully
I
is.
think Billy Loomis. I keep forgetting the actor's name because I didn't know it before you mentioned it
Skeet
a
Ulrich.
second ago.
Mm.
He's great. I find him really creepy, like as that like charming sort of Norman Bates-esque sort of character.
Yeah, he's got that like that Jeffrey Dahmer energy. He's pretty handsome, but he's kind of looks like he could be a crackhead and just shank you at any moment.
Like 100%. Like when I first watched the movie, at the start I was like, "Oh, he's the killer," and then like there's the subversion, and I was like, "Oh, who could it be?" And then when he comes
Yeah.
again at the end to be evil, it's great, and I think he plays that really creepy like. So yeah, they're great. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
What else did he do after this?
Not much. And I think there was talk at some point of him being the next big thing, right? But it never worked out. It never happened.
He really was sort of slated to be like the next big Hollywood star, kind of like in the Johnny Depp sort of vein. Like, sort of pretty boy but good actor. But yeah, I don't know too much about it just never happened. Like he was in that show Jericho. If you guys ever watched that,
Yeah.
I didn't, but I wanted to.
I really liked that. Just because I like Fallout stuff, and he's in that, and he's really good in it. He's a solid leading man, and then did a stint on Law and Order LA, TV movies. Like really, just faded into obscurity. He's on Riverdale now. The
Oh yeah.
the Netflix
true.
show, and so I think he's trying to go through sort of that renaissance.
Yeah.
But,
I will
yeah,
just
I don't
say
know.
on Scream 3 while we're talking about it, I touched on it earlier, but like the movie is so 2000, like, it has just Creed playing like unironically. And I didn't realize when it first started playing, I was like, oh my God, it's Creed. And then it clicked a second later. I was like, of course it is. It's like made in 2000. I was like, of course,
Yeah.
or 2001. I was like, of course Creed's there. There's Creed
Mm.
posters on the wall.
Yeah, so Sydney has one on the wall, and I'm like, wow, people bought Creed posters.
Yeah, they
That
did,
blows my
man. I was one of
mind.
them. And just like, especially like Jay and Silent Bob showing up,
Yeah.
like
There's
for like a
number 3.
cameo.
I love it. I love that part so much.
But it's such a moment in time. I feel like of that
Actually,
time in cinema.
Yeah.
and that's a reason why 3 can't be the worst. It has Carrie Fisher in it.
True. It does
Exactly.
have Carrie Fisher in it.
All right, I have to
Pretending
reevaluate
like
everything now.
pretending she's a lookalike of Carrie Fisher
It's
who didn't
that
get
scene
cast in
is
Star Wars.
that scene's so great.
It's great because she's like not like I don't know her much out of Star Wars, obviously. So when she pops up, like I didn't even like it didn't click at first, and it was like my wife who was first like, "Oh my God, it's her!" And I was like, "Wait," and I was like, "Oh my God, it is!" Like it's
And they've got her in a like she's made up in a way that she doesn't. She looks not like she looks a bit different, and so it is intentional. Is this actually Carrie Fisher or? So I think they play on that a bit. But yeah, it's just such a great little like 5 minutes.
And it's kind of funny as well because when we're watching Scream 4, like my wife and I had like 5 minutes where we're like, is that Heather Graham, the cop?
Yeah.
Because she looks like Heather Graham.
Oh
but
yeah.
No, the cop in the 4th one, and we're like, wait a minute, Heather Graham was in the earlier Scream movie playing Drew Barrymore, but it's not Heather Graham in this one.
No, I had the same thought. I was like, geez, that looks a lot like her. But
Yeah,
couldn't be, right?
exactly. But
yeah. All right. I guess quick fix. How do we? I don't know. Have we covered this or not really? I don't think anyone has a solution, right?
don't
Grant,
make it.
is it just add a second killer?
Yeah, that's for me. That's all I need. No, I don't.
Wait, so if there's a second killer, this wins over 2, or
keep Randy alive so he can hang out at number 3 and give us a second killer.
Make him the second killer.
You could.
It feels like he almost has to be at some point. And they talk about it in the first one, right? He's like, I should be the killer, and they kind of intentionally don't have him be. So it would be a nice.
Funny. He's like, you're right. And he's like, if this was a movie, I would be the prime suspect. You're right to suspect me. Like, Randy's great. Good. My boy deserved better.
He did. Look, I feel like his death in number 2 is needed because it really does just shock you. Go, wow, no one is safe. But it also hurts me because I want Randy in my life. I just want to be friends with Randy. I think he'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to the obvious pick for which one's the best, Scream 4, Granny, you don't like it?
No, I do. I just like Scream 2 better, I think.
Yeah.
But it was surprisingly good, and like surprisingly good for a 4th movie too. And a movie that like introduces a bunch of new characters. I think it does that reasonably well. I think it modernizes things pretty well too. Like, they're talking about like streaming things online and stuff like that. When that was probably not the biggest thing back then.
No, yeah.
But they sort of,
It is funny. And they mentioned Twitter in it, and like in 2011, I didn't even realize Twitter was a thing, but I think it was just starting
early
to
days. Twitter was early days in 2011.
Starting to gain some traction. So it's like it did have its finger on the pulse. Like it knew sort of what was going on and had a sense of what was coming. I really liked Scream 4 and 3 watch. I think I actually enjoyed it more than 2 and 3.
Yep. I'm with you.
And
it's
rather
Scream 4, Scream 3, then Scream 2, in my opinion. But
switch 2 and 3 around that I'm probably with you.
Bottom two, like I'm either or. Like honestly, take Jerry O'Connell out singing and two pips 3 for me. But
masterpiece.
But I really enjoyed 4. I really did enjoy 4. Again, like we touched on earlier with like a cast list, it's like, oh, Hayden Panettiere is in here. Like
my girl.
It's like it's great. You got Macaulay Culkin's brother. Like it's
like a much better actor. Rory Culkin is tops.
Yeah, Rory and Kieran are way better than Macaulay.
Both great actors. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, like quite good. And
yeah,
I liked the ending in 4. I liked the twist.
I think Emma Roberts is really good. I think she was really good in this movie too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I didn't see that coming. Like I didn't see Culkin being the killer either, in like a weird way. I kept being like, is it Hayden Panettiere or is it like, I don't know, but
and this is what I think I loved about so much, because they're intentionally do like Culkin is the Randy of this era.
Yeah.
Yes.
And obviously Emma Roberts is Sydney. So you've got sort of like the two heroes who there, and you can sort of assume, okay, maybe there might be some reveals, but you do not expect it because it's a remake. You're expecting Sydney to pass on the mantle, to sort of there be this like, I know, this catharsis and this sharing of her experience with her cousin, which would be really nice as a way for her to resolve all these issues. And you think that, like, you just assume that Culkin will be okay, because it's like, no, he's the Brandy. We need him here. He's lovable. And then it's just like, no, let's double down. They're both involved. That's
especially when like Emma Roberts' mum gets killed. It's like sort of like well, that's it's kind of throws you off the scent a bit with that.
And so I'd seen it. Like,
I was gonna say, and like it genuinely shocked me when like Hayden's character goes out to him strapped to the chair, and he turns on. I'm like, oh my god! I was like, what? Was not expecting that at all.
Yeah, see, I still remember that Emma Roberts was the killer, and so I was like, it's her in the end. But I couldn't remember that there was a second or who it was. And so when that happened again, I was like, oh shit, it's Culkin again.
Yeah,
they got me twice.
And he brutally kills his best friend too. Like, it's live streaming it too. It's intense, man.
What do you guys think of the double false opening?
Isn't it a triple false opening? It happens. It's more than double, isn't it? I think there's 3.
I think it's only 3.
There's 3.
No, I think there's
technically 3 openings.
Yeah.
2 are false.
Because there's the first one. And the second one,
Kristen Bell watching it.
Yeah,
and then Kristen Bell kills her.
So Kristen Bell and what's her face, Anna Paquin.
Yep.
And so then it's like, so it does that, and then it does it, I think, a third time, and that's when you've got the proper one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. But even like 2 minutes into the proper one, I was like, is this going to be a fake out again? I was like, is it? I don't know. It seems like this, but I don't know. It's kind of funny, and I guess it's just playing on the whole stab 7, stab 8.
Yeah.
It's
And then they talk a lot about that. They're like, what does this mean for the timeline? They're like, well, if stab 7 is the beginning of stab 6, is stab 6 is the beginning of stab 5. I'm like, well, you got to understand, stab 4 had time travel, and doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
I want to see the time travel.
Me too.
We're getting it in Scream 5. Randy comes back.
Yeah, my boy.
You watch.
Yeah. He goes forwards in time.
And Timothy Olyphant, just because I want him back again with a cowboy hat this time.
Yep. From the wrong universe. Okay.
Oh, whoops. Yeah.
I'm just looking over here. Okay, cool.
You've got Alison
Which film
in
wins?
there as your community connection
dude,
too.
Alison Brie. Yeah, of course. That's 4,
awesome.
isn't it?
Yeah.
4.
She's
Because
the
Sydney's
publicist.
written the book. And she's thrown out the window. Thrown out of the car park, which is brutal. But
Pretty brutal, yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's all yeah. It's such a it's a crazy. All these films just have crazy cut. You got the two cops, Anthony Anderson and Adam Brody.
yeah,
They're just like the ultimate, like every guy. You've seen them in every second film.
Yep.
It's cool.
always is the
Oh,
like comedic people sort of thing. But
Yeah.
I do love like even they're like, oh wait a minute, no, I'll go on the walk because then what if they gouge your eyes out and well I come back and you're dead and but it seemed like,
great.
man, those cops were never there. Like they're outside, and then all of a sudden the Ghostface is in there, and the cops aren't there, or in their car, or something like that. It's just
Cops in these movies are completely useless.
Yep.
Except for
Yeah, they're
Dewey,
not
kind of by accident.
I mean, the amount of times he just doesn't. The best part's in number 3 when they what is it? Ghostface like throws the knife at him and he hits him with their handle.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh,
rolls
you're
downstairs.
the most useless piece of crap.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
All
I'll just say again,
Yep.
let's go back to 3, just about this guy having everybody's voice being able to be changed on the little recorder thing. He can mimic
Nah,
anybody's
they
voice.
sucked.
yeah,
You know,
I
I
think
know.
that's pretty
It was
bad. I don't know if that technology existed in 2000.
It doesn't really exist now.
No,
Not without
it's
several hours of computer
forward
rendering
thinking.
time.
I mean, we've got deep fakes, right? So I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for that. But back in the day,
Not in 2011, no.
especially not when it's like he's got Sydney's dead mum. Like,
Mm.
how the hell did that happen? Anyway, all right. Should we talk about Scream 1?
Pretty good
Unless someone wants to do a Scream style twist and say, actually, Scream 1 is the worst, and I set you up.
What a twist! I'm actually Macaulay Culkin's fourth brother. No.
That'd be cool.
Scream 1. What a film! I like.
What to say?
It deserves a lot better than Scream 2 does on Rotten Tomatoes. That's for damn sure.
It's true.
So strange.
I really enjoy this. Like I said earlier, I watched this for the first time ever last year, but it feels iconic to me. Like it feels classic, and the opening scene is amazing. Like it's I know that scene, not seeing it all them years, but like watching it and just a phone call and like everything all the way to the opening title. It's like it's iconic. It's classic.
Can we watch and listen to that real quick?
It's a short bit of it, but let's do it.
Just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
Halloween. You know, the one with the guy in the white mask who walks around and stalks babysitters.
Good choice.
Drew Barrymore.
She's really good in this scene too. Like it's
Cheers.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good scene. It's so classic. Like how many times have we heard, "Do you like scary movies?" Like everybody does that quote. And the whole time you're kind of like screaming, like, just hang up the phone, don't talk to him, get out of there. And they're really playing into that trope, right? Like of the person not doing the thing you think they should. And it's really good.
Yeah.
It's so great. And like just little things like you've got the popcorn there.
Yeah.
Sort of gradually getting bigger and bigger. So there's kind of like this.
It's like the tension building.
Yeah, this ticking clock of like how long is it going to go for, and you go, okay, this is happening over like a few minutes because that's how long it takes to pop the corn. And then like super gory as well.
Yeah.
You see her boyfriend get cut, and it's like every time I see that, it shocks me because it is so visceral.
Yeah.
And I kind of forget, like in these films that are kind of funny and that have a silly bone, there's just this like hardcore gore.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like it's such an iconic opening, and I feel like Drew Barrymore getting like killed. I think it's one of the most powerful kills in the whole series. Her running up and seeing her parents walking into the house and her trying to say mum and she can't, like because of her throat being cut.
Yeah.
Is like heartbreaking, and man, it feels brutal. Like she's right there, can't like her. If her mum turns, she could see her.
Yeah.
And then she's just getting stabbed like in her yard. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And then obviously, the parents' reaction where he's like, go down the road, call such and such, and walking out and seeing her on the hanging on the tree is like freaky as hell and like gutted. It goes into the whole like very nostalgia horror of like does like lightning sounds and like like it's like very scare horror sort of thing, but it is genuinely terrifying, and it's such a thrilling opening.
Yeah. Not great directions. Like you've just noticed that your house has been broken into and there's blood, and you're like, okay, run outside into the darkness and go to a neighbor. There's obviously someone who's going to like probably kill you. So what? Yeah, anyway, but the part that always gets me watching it is how she's getting dragged away, and the parents are on the phone and they're like, "We can hear
And
her."
they can hear her.
And it's like it's really heart wrenching and like really
Yep.
like harrowing. And she's just kind of like, it's like holy
Yeah.
shit, that's
like
like-
they can hear their daughter's final breaths, and it's
Yeah.
heartbreaking, man. And it hits you. It hits you.
yeah,
It really
like it actually
feels
doesn't like
powerful.
it's proper emotion. Like I always forget that sound. Like wow, it's again. Wes Craven just knows
It's
how to direct
terrifying.
horror, man.
And honestly, no other kill comes close for the rest of the series. Though I
No.
feel like it's the
No,
most
not really,
powerful,
yeah.
like wow, like that, like heavy kill.
But I think that's the wise choice. Like I don't think it's good to try to ever up that. Like the opening scene should always set the mood for the whole film. And the way they do it, like they make that first scene perfect. Like, it's like the perfect opening scene of a film. And they're like, this, we can't get better because we've achieved perfection here. We've completely set the scene. We horrify you. We make you laugh. We tell you that we're a horror film that's about horror films. No one's safe because Drew Barrymore gets killed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're never going to get a kill as good as that because it's just, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Can I ask,
So-
do we ever get a motive for killing Drew Barrymore at the start there? I mean, they kill a lot of people for no reason, but that one always stands out as like, why did they kill them too?
It didn't like that. There's the little comment about how she dumped Stu, Matthew Lillard's character.
Oh, is that what happened?
Oh, yeah.
And because they're like, didn't you date her? And he's like, yeah, for like 2 days. And,
Yeah, that's right,
and
there is
everyone's
that.
like, but then she dumped you. And he's like he like deflects it like, no, she didn't. Like I dumped her, sort of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of the big thing that at the end they're like, what's the motive? And, they're kind of like having no motive is scarier than
Yeah.
having a motive.
Yep. But then they
And
give
then
them a motive.
Yeah, and then they kind of riff on it and they're like, lack of sex and your mother's a whore. It's
Yeah.
like- and so it's kind of how much of that is true, how much of it is just like why is Matthew Lillard involved? Like he clearly doesn't have any because Billy's dad slept with Sydney's mum.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well, he's clearly unhinged. He's just there for the killing. I think.
yeah, he just
It's
deranged.
just nuts. Oh no, but hey, he says peer pressure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
It's like,
Yeah.
why are you doing it? Peer pressure.
Yeah.
I forget the full line, but it's hilarious.
And I guess it's kind of ripping on that, just the, like the hottest girl in school, the cheerleader, gets killed in horror films. And so Drew Barrymore's obviously kind of that energy. So yeah, I guess you're right. There's a leap of like why specifically her, but it just I don't care. I never want to like that's a plot hole and just like kill Drew
Look,
Barrymore.
if you're looking for plot holes in the Scream movies, you're going to find them. But I was just
You're
it was
gonna
the way,
feel
I don't know.
that.
They go out of their way to give a motive in the end, even though they're like, oh, no motive is scarier. But that one always
Yeah.
struck me as. But maybe you're right.
Well, originally when they were writing, there wasn't really a clear one. They couldn't figure out which if they should have one or shouldn't, so they ended up just putting them both in, which I kind of like because it could actually go either way. Maybe he's just blood drunk and rambling. Maybe he's legit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they do that because they have this whole thing of like everyone has a motive. Like they'd sort of tease the whodunit in every movie about every character. You could feel like, oh, is it that person? Like I ask that several times each movie. I'm like, is it that person? No, it's got to be that person. No, it's, you watch, it'll be this person. Okay,
Well,
no, it's not that person. It's
Well, like with the scissors with Henry Winkler, they're teasing. It's like, is he killing all the kids?
I know Henry
That's a funny
Winkler don't
scene.
mess around, man. He don't mess
No.
around. He's like,
No, he's full on. He just expels those kids.
I will
remember
say
his line.
before it's revealed that Billy Loomis is like an actual murderer and like a really bad person, man, that whole scene like in the hallway at the school where he's basically been like, yeah, we haven't had sex for a while. Like you haven't been the same since your mum was brutally raped and murdered like a year ago. And he's like, he literally says, it's been a year. It's like time to get over that. It's like, oh man, it's like it's so yeah.
Oh, it's so horrible. And what's her head quotes like? I'm sorry, my trauma is inconvenient for you. And it's like that's pretty accurate. Like, what a dick.
Yep. But then even like when before they do it in the final, like in the third act. Like she says the scene that I said at the start of the podcast. Like, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I've been so selfish and like self-absorbed with all this post-traumatic stress. It's just like it feels so. I don't like it feels so like comedy like written, but it's not. It's like it's teenage love, but
not horrible.
yeah, it's got a great soundtrack. Number one. Then I feel like they just played like the same songs throughout like the next two movies though. But number one has a great soundtrack, and like they really blast them 90s songs every couple scenes. But yeah, it's really great soundtrack.
No, for sure. So Granny, sorry, you'd never seen this, yeah?
No. Well, I'm pretty sure I hadn't. I didn't remember most of it. If I had seen it, like I'd seen bits and pieces. I think definitely had seen 4, but
yeah. Also, obviously, I just want you to tell me about your experience. You were blown away by it, or you were like, yeah, it's fine.
I really enjoyed it. Like horror movies aren't my thing really, but like I said at the start, like the way they strike this balance between knowing exactly what they are and parodying horror movies, and then also creating all this tension and creating a genuinely decent slasher, is just really incredible. And the reveal, like the killer reveal at the end, is the other scene that really stands out to me. Like that, like Matthew Lillard just going off his tree. Like he's just loopy in those final scenes. It's so good.
Do we have that final reveal?
We have some of it. Yeah.
Oh, now, whoa.
What's the matter, Sydney? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Why are you doing this?
It's all part of the game, Sydney.
It's called Guess How I'm Gonna Die!
Fuck you!
No. We already played that game, remember? You lost.
It's a fun game, Sydney. See, we ask you a question, and if you get it wrong, booga! You die.
You get it right? You die.
You're crazy, both of you.
Actually, we prefer the term psychotic.
We'll never get away with this.
Oh, no. Tell that to Cotton Weary.
Matthew Lillard is so strange.
You wouldn't believe how easy he was to frame.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. It was fun.
No!
Oh, where you going?
Oh, gosh.
Why did you kill my mother?
Why?
Why?
You hear that, Stu? I think she wants a motive. I don't really believe in motive, Sid. I mean, did Norman Bates have a motive?
No.
Did they ever really decide why Hannibal Lecter liked to eat people? Don't think so. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
But let me give you a
Mama
motive.
favor, Sid. That woman was a slutbag whore who flashed her shit all over town like she was Sharon Stone or something.
Yeah, I would put her out of her misery. Because let's face it, Sydney, your mother was no Sharon Stone.
No Sharon Stone. Not a great motive.
No. So yeah, maybe it doesn't hold up. But I don't know. I feel like those two are just really compelling in that final scene. Like it's good. It's really, really good.
And you're right. Like having two killers was such like a huge revelation, especially when you obviously see him get killed.
Yeah.
Or we think he gets killed, and he's covered in blood. It's like, oh crap! I've been misdirected. Yeah, I've been misdirected this whole time because it's obviously playing pretty heavily into it that it is him. And then it doubles down and goes, no, it's a twist on a twist. And it's like, oh, that, just kind of like you start to figure it out. It's like, oh, that's how so much happened. That's how they were able to always sort of be around the house and hunting someone. That's how they were able to play this game so well.
Also be on the phone at the same time, and yeah.
Yeah. It's a really clever choice, and it kind of, I don't know if it really shaped a lot from there, but it just was like a really great staple. Like, look what you can do. You can have this stuff going. You don't need to have Jason Voorhees with a machete just walking through everybody. It's like you can have, and like, even having them as like clumsy killers, like you see them like Rose McGowan kicks them heaps and almost gets out of the garage.
Yeah.
Every time when they kind of like stumble over and get stuck in a door. It's like they're not unstoppable. They're really just
they're teenage boys that are just
they're just trying to kill people.
That's the thing. When I first watched it last year, I remember like in that opening scene being like, oh my god, this is like a great opening and everything. But I had that moment where I was like, I don't feel like the killer's that threatening because, man, he's just like stumbling around, like she's like kicking him, he's like falling over. I'm like, he's kind of a klutz. I'm like, he doesn't,
clumsy,
and just the like even the stuff like he says on the phone, like the way he reacts, like all angry, like it didn't what I sort of expected over these years was like, oh, it's this like really chilling phone call, and then like how he just gets all like angry and like, oh, gotcha like a fish. Like I'm like, I wasn't expecting that the first time I watched it, so it's like, okay, it's just this unhinged dude who's really unco as well, and he's just like getting his ass handed to him, and but then it makes sense obviously with the ending twist, and it all makes it all great sort of thing.
And again, it kind of it marked that turning point where horror films stopped having like these supernatural villains who were just, even if they had a motive that was kind of larger than life. It's like, no, you can just have some dude who's a serial killer, or anyone can do this. You don't need to have like supernaturality. It's just it's scarier being the kid next door, and that becomes horror for the next like 10 years, pretty much.
There is just creepy kids at school.
Yep.
Who are a bit psychotic.
Just one bad day away from
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of iconic stuff. Like, how do you guys like the rules? I think it's probably the second most iconic thing of these films, right?
No, it's good. It's good. Like, it's a lot of fun for them to set them up, and then you kind of see them broken. Like, obviously, she's not a virgin at the end of the movie, and like, it's good. I like. It's well done.
I think there's a lot of great recognition of like, this is how it's going to go, and here's how we don't have to do that though. Like, so yeah, she's not a virgin, so she should die, but we can break rules as much as enforce them.
Yeah,
because they also do great things. Like Sydney mentions in that phone call with the killer, she's like, "Oh, horror movies are all the same. Some idiot's running upstairs when she should be running out the front door." And then she locks the front door, and as soon as she has to escape, she can't, so she has to run upstairs.
Run up the stairs, yeah.
And it's like, that's great. So it's sticking to the rule, but for a proper reason. Like, it's just, there's such a clever awareness of how to play to every strength, and when to subvert it, when not to. Yeah, the rules are a great way of like, here's just so everyone's on the even play field. So, okay, how am I going to get tricked by this? How are they going to outsmart me? How can I sort of predict what's coming? And then the double killer is like, yeah, you're right, they can do that. I didn't expect it, but it completely makes sense. And
one of the only rules I think in all four of the movies that never gets broken and is like a firm rule is the fact that the killer always jumps up after you think they're dead. You have to kill them again. So there's always the final, just the killer just launching to their feet and be like, and getting shot again.
Emma Roberts is pretty great in the fourth one. She just like, just like shoots her in the face. Can we play those rules, Producer Grant?
Sure.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex.
I love how they're all reacting to it too.
Dead man. Sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3.
Here comes the best Matthew Lillard.
Ever, under any circumstances, say, "I'll be right back," because you won't be back. I'm getting another beer. You want one? Yeah, sure. I'll be right back. You see, you push the laws and you end up dead. Okay, I'll see you in the kitchen with a knife.
Why do I feel like that was you, Conan, at parties?
Because look, it kind of was, all right. I always wanted to work in a video store. I was always the one who's like, I'm living a horror film.
You're always telling people being promiscuous, right?
Yeah, basically, I'd go to a party and I'd be like, "Stop having sex, you're gonna die."
Yep, you'd walk in.
God is watching,
and just be like, "Hey, we're all watching."
It's like you want to die, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to run through the other ones real quick. So the rules to this Scream 2 or a sequel: the body count's always bigger, death scenes are much more elaborate, never assume the killer is dead. I think it does all those things, right?
I don't know if it's that much more elaborate.
No.
Is Scream 2 the one with where they get stuck in the cop car and the killer's unconscious?
Yeah, for like 10 minutes and they crawl over.
I like that scene,
don't take
actually.
the mask. Do you? I didn't.
I don't like that they don't take the mask off.
Yeah.
But I like the whole just the slow, like, can we climb over if they're unconscious? I don't know. I thought it was tense.
But I just kept yelling, take the damn mask off.
Yeah, no, you're right. That part, that did bug me. Scream 3, trilogies deal with something we thought was true but wasn't. So the killer is superhuman. Anyone can die, including the protagonist, and the past will bite you in the ass. The killer's not superhuman in number 3.
He is more than the others, though. Like, he's less clumsy. Like, I don't think he trips over anything or anything like that. And he also has, like, the bulletproof vest on.
True, yeah.
I think that's how they do it.
Yeah, right. That makes sense actually.
And there's also like the fact that he kind of is moving the same way when there was 2 killers, but it's only one dude.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. You're right. So they kind of trick you there. That's good point. You've convinced me. In Scream 4, the opening sequence has to blow you away. It's the reverse of the original rules apply, so only gay people survive. And then there's always a third act bloodbath. And then, funnily enough, it's kind of gone the other way, where like black people and gay people are sort of the two ones that always die in horror films now. So it's like, and once they were safe, they're kind of playing it off again. So we'll see how it goes with Scream 5, how they update those rules. But
I do find it funny that the guy's like, "Wait, you can't kill me. I'm gay." If that counts, like, if that matters.
It's so good.
And the kill like stops because it's Culkin, and he like stops for a second, and then he kills his friend anyway.
Yeah, there's a moment. It's
brutal.
It's real good.
He's like, "Wait, are you? Shit. Does that mean I can kill you?" No, I'll kill you anyway. But,
he's committed to the part. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. I see. Like it's things like that, like the double killer reveal, the rules, all this stuff is like really sort of gave a roadmap for horror. So be like, okay, here's what we can do now. We don't have to keep doing sequels to summer camp slashes. We don't have to keep just doing, Gremlins 4 where there's this weird monster or this, Child's Play, all these sort of like schlocky horror films that weren't scary. It's like we can just do. We know there's rules now. We know there is actually genre tropes that everyone's accepted. So it's like a new way. It's like a new language to make horror, really. And I think this film kind of more than any really revives it for the 21st century, which, as a horror fan, I'm incredibly thankful for.
Yeah.
All right.
I just want to say, with Scream 5 coming out, why is there still landlines? Who has landline phones?
Is that in the trailer? Oh, yeah,
in the trailer, she answers a landline phone. I 100% thought we would be getting like a Zoom call, or something like, or.
I'm kind of glad we didn't though, because Zoom calls and stuff on the horror
just a Snapchat,
that would have worked actually.
Yeah,
I'm kind of worried. Like all that sort of Zoom horror stuff is really kind of.
Unfriended was good. I liked Unfriended.
No, I didn't like Unfriended.
Yeah, they're not that great. It's been done a few times now. I feel like
I don't want them to go into it, but
yeah,
you'd think a Zoom call would be more likely than a landline call to a teenage girl.
That is true. That is, yeah. We'll see if they do it and they're aware of what's going on or not.
Should Snapchat's not a bad idea. Just like, it could be like, I'm outside and photo of her front door, photo of her through the window looking at her phone. Like it's
like they probably will play into a lot of that stuff. I think the trailer's clearly like, here is Drew Barrymore in 2022.
Yeah.
This is how we do this now.
Yeah.
But you're right. Even in the fourth one, I'm kind of like, home phones are kind of dying, and they're still very Like they've got texting, but they've still got home phones. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe in America they're more common, but I know in Australia no one has them anymore.
No.
Any last thoughts? I know. I feel like I could sing its praises all day, but I don't know if there's anything. If I'd be saying anything new. Do you guys have any last thoughts on Scream?
Speaking of singing, how good was it when Jerry was singing?
Shut up.
I was gonna say, honestly, like they were fun horror movies. Like I enjoyed watching them. They are a movie that I could watch every couple Halloweens. Like sit down, watch some of them, or at least the first one again.
The first one, yeah, I could rewatch that like every year. Hey,
and as cheesy and like bad as some of them got, it was a thing. Like I was always keen to watch the next one on this rewatch. Like I was like, oh, cool. Scream 3 tomorrow night. Scream 4 the next night. Like I was keen to actually do that. And I am excited to go watch Scream 5. We might do a review for that when it comes out.
I'm hoping so.
Do you know any good horror books, Conan?
Funny that you mentioned that, because this podcast is actually brought to you by a horror book.
Yeah.
Let me just pick it up here. With the taste. Oh, look at that! 2 copies. Who'd have thunk it?
Sorry, I'll get my.
That's brought to you by the novel The Taste of Iron, written by me, C.B. Clarke. Grace lawman is forced to delve into the burning hell of the Australian frontier in a hunt for justice, but only darkness awaits him. If you like Australian Gothic horror westerns, this is the book for you for Halloween or for Christmas. You can pick up on Amazon
or Easter,
or even Easter. Nothing says Easter like death. Pick it up on Amazon now. All right. If no one else has got any final thoughts, I think we'll Hold you?
No.
No. Cool.
No,
All right.
maybe.
Coming up next, we're going to take a break from the trilogy. We're going to do something a bit more culturally relevant, and we're going to talk about Squid Game.
Yes.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but have you heard of Squid Game? Little show that no one's watching.
It's on Stan. Is it on Stan?
It's a British documentary. It's about squids. So.
Yeah.
I heard that I have to watch it in English dub, though, if I want the best acting. So,
if you want to get all the cultural references, definitely watch it in the English dub.
Yeah.
I'm very keen to talk with you guys about Squid Game. It'll be great. It'll be good.
Yeah. I guess for you listening at home, this show is obviously a huge movement at the moment, slated to be Netflix's next biggest show. So we figured that we might as well talk about it because it is something that is, everyone's talking about. So if you're keen to get our opinions on something contemporary, tune in next fortnight. That's when.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, if you like this, if you liked watching us tonight, this is a special, but you can watch us every week on our sister, brother, mother podcast, Bonus XP, where we talk about video games. So catch us there on YouTube or any of your platforms where you like to listen to podcasts. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell everybody. When you're trick-or-treating, leave little candies that have our details in there so they can like them at home and not choke on the paper, I guess.
Think of us when you're trick-or-treating.
Yeah. Do that. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Dress as one of us.
Follow us.
Send us a photo.
Please do. Yeah, and we'll catch you next week.
Hit me with the phone, Dick. And everything Matthew Lillard does in that scene is great.
That's cool.